Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video and a new series. Shawn's the name and today I'm buying my first investment property. So this video and this whole series on this channel is going to be a little bit different than what I typically post, mainly because I just want a video log of raw information and footage of what happens with this first investment property that I can look back on in 10, 20, 30 years from now. Plus, I figured for anyone out there who's thinking about buying their first investment property and they don't necessarily want to risk anything yet, they can kind of see how I do it, the strategies I'm going through, and probably the struggles I'm going to run into to kind of see how it pans out for me. Hopefully I end up making more than $1 on this investment property, but either way, it should be a really good time and something that's going to be a whole new experience for me. Now, let's get you caught up to speed. Okay, number one, I just bought a duplex in the Phoenix metropolitan area, Project Quinn. 2, I'm currently purchasing the home for $350,000. 3, both units are currently being rented out, one for $919 a month, the other one for $1,045 a month, making total rental income per month to $1,964. And I will get into all of the financing and how the property specifically cash flows and really the whole breakdown of all the numbers in general in episode 2 of this series. So that is a good reason for you to hit the subscribe button right now. And I know a lot of people are probably here to see the numbers and the breakdown because if you're going to be investing into a property, you want it to make you some money and you want to see how much money it's going to make you. So I know that is a very important part of buying an investment property, and obviously that's what I'm very much concerned with. But I figured to do something a little bit different than most other videos out there on the internet because everyone always focuses on the numbers. But what a lot of people forget to mention is you're actually buying a tangible asset. You're not just dropping a bunch of money into the stock market and you're kind of getting, an intangible asset. You're getting a tangible asset. So that's why I want to focus on the actual home that I'm buying in episode 1 and then focus on the numbers in episode 2. So why am I under contract and am buying this property for $350,000? Well, I think it's going to be a great start to my mint tycoon. It ultimately comes down to 5 main reasons why I chose this specific property. First of all, and probably the most important, is I chose to stay in my own lane. I actually grew up 994 feet from this property, and I currently only live a couple miles away. So I am incredibly familiar with the area. After doing tons of research, a lot of people like to focus on properties that are just yielding the highest returns possible, and they might not actually know much about the property. Sometimes that even means buying a property in a completely different state. Well, I chose to pick an area that is literally so familiar to me. I know it like the back of my hand. I used to run around in the streets where this property is. So I'm very familiar with it. And the reason I did that is, again, I feel very comfortable. But 2, if anything ever goes wrong with the property, I'm, 10 minutes away from going to check it out. I don't have to rely on pictures or he said, she said, or hiring contractors to go check things out. I can go see it firsthand and it's right there for me. Plus, there's something about dropping a ton of money that you've worked your butt off to earn into something that you're just not familiar with. I'm familiar with this and I feel great with it so far. I don't know, we're gonna see what ends up happening. But also 2, the next part of me kind of staying in my own lane is I'm a mortgage lender licensed in Arizona and Texas. I do hundreds of loans every single year. So I don't know why I wouldn't use that to my advantage, where some people like to kind of invest in other markets that they don't know as much about. Well, I know a ton about this market because I'm in it every day. Ultimately, I just feel really comfortable with this property because it feels like it's the back of my hand. All right. Number 2, it is a relatively low risk investment. Now, some of you definitely lost your mind when I said I'm buying a duplex for $350,000. Some of you might have thought that's wicked cheap, or some of you might have thought, wow, that's super expensive, because it varies a ton depending on where you're at in the country. If you were to buy a duplex in California, like in LA, you're probably spending twice that amount, if not maybe even more. Whereas if you were to buy it in somewhere like small, I don't even know, like Ohio or Indiana maybe, I'm not super familiar with those markets, but you could probably get a duplex in a really cheap area for $100,000, $150,000. For the Phoenix metropolitan area, a $350,000 duplex in a good neighborhood is a wicked good deal. But that's only part 1 of the fact that it is a low risk investment. Of course, the purchase price is low for the area. Could I have bought something a lot more expensive? Yes, of course I could. But why would I try to run before I can walk? So I'm trying to keep things as low risk as possible. And again, part 1 is only the purchase price. Part 2 is it's very cheap when it comes to taxes on the property. The taxes are literally only $1,321 a year. And for most of you watching this video, that's probably ridiculously low. Property taxes in Arizona are relatively low compared to the rest of the country. So that's phenomenal. And then part 3 of the fact that it's low risk is the insurance on the property is also incredibly low risk as well. It's only $538 a year. So if you take into consideration the low purchase price for the area, the low taxes, and the low insurance, that's about as low risk as it gets for me when you're buying a property. Number 3 is the fact that the property has massive potential, okay? The Arizona housing market has been appreciating at honestly an alarming rate in the last couple of years. It's always been on those top 10 lists. In fact, Texas has also been on that list. Coinciding that I'm licensed in both those states? I don't know. But at the end of the day, the homes in Arizona are appreciating incredibly fast, okay? In the last 12 months alone, we've seen appreciation rates of 12.6% according to the ARM list, which is absolutely unreal. Now, I will say that is an incredible growth rate that is heavily spurred by the fact that interest rates are incredibly low right now, and that is not going to last forever. I understand that. But even then, the next 12 months, ARMList has predicted that we'll see an 8.3% appreciation rate in Arizona alone. And that's with rates slowly jumping back up to where they probably should be right now. And I think that's actually even very conservative. We're seeing taxes rise in other states. That's why there's a mass exodus of California right now and some other high income tax states. So a lot of those individuals, we're talking influencers, celebrities, and just wealthy people, are leaving those states because they don't want to give up 50 to 60% of their income every year. They want to go live in a cheaper state, and Arizona is a phenomenal safe haven for that. And that's not just speculation. Again, I'm buying this property because I'm very comfortable with the area and comfortable with the information around it. I've been seeing this firsthand. I probably do 10 to 15 loans a month, and out of those 10 to 15 loans, typically 2 of them are from buyers out of state moving into Arizona. When there's more people moving into Arizona, there's just not enough housing, and obviously prices are going to be increased as the demand is increased. So that's why the appreciation rates in Arizona should stay very strong in the coming years. Even during a market slowdown, I think this property is still going to have tons of potential. So that's number 3. Number 4, which is also very important, I think a lot of people forget to look at, it's something I almost forgot to look at, was the fact that the property is pretty maintenance free. Sure, you're gonna have your classic landlord stuff. When things break, you gotta go fix and you gotta keep it up to date. That's normal with any property. But the things I'm talking about is the fact that the terrain and the actual building itself is pretty maintenance free. There's no grass, there's no live plants that need to be watered that you need to keep up on that's gonna raise your costs, right? It's just rocks. There's no landscaping that needs to be done. So I don't have to pay for that. I don't have to worry about the tenants keeping that up to date. You can't really mess up rocks. So that's really enticing to me because I hate doing it on my own home. So if I didn't actually own the home I was in, I probably wouldn't like to keep up with it either. And then lastly, number 5, all the old timers always say this, and it's the fact that if it's not broke, don't fix it. The property is already cash flowing as is. I could close tomorrow, not change a thing for the next 30 years, and it would still make me money. But the big portion of that I'm really excited about is it's very under market rent right now. With a very cheap and easy renovation on both those units, I could raise the rents a ton and even cash flow even more. So I'm very excited for that. But even as is, if I didn't do anything and just wanted to kind of sit at home and just do the normal property manager stuff, I would still make some pretty good money. Again, we're going to get into the financing in episode 2. So if you sit back and look at all 5 of these, there should be one common trend that you can see, and it's the fact that I'm just trying to manage my risk. Again, trying to. I've never done this before, so this is going to be a learning process for me, and hopefully you'll learn something too. But the fact is, I'm trying to manage my risk. I'm going for a very low risk property right now. There's no point in me going for a high risk, high reward property when I've never done this before. If you Google or search around on YouTube, you'll see nightmare stories with landlords and tenants, and I don't want to deal with that. And I think the property that I chose, I'm not gonna have to deal with that, but we're going to see. We're going to find out. That's why I want to keep this video log, because it's going to be interesting to look back on this in a couple years when I have a tenant destroy it. I'm going to be like, hey, remember in that video I said I got a very low risk investment? Well, we'll see. Either way, this is going to be a massive learning experience for me and hopefully for you too. Hopefully you can get something out of this. I'm just really stoked to have a video log to look back on this in a couple years, because it's probably going to be very interesting. And I'm going to try to keep every part of the process, everything that has to do with this rental property, I'm going to try to document it and do it on part of this series on my channel. So it's going to be pretty cool. Some things to look forward forward to. Again, the next episode, we're going to be going over all of the financing and everything that I'm kind of taking into account and how I'm actually calculating how I'm going to cash flow on this property. So that's always something that a lot of people are interested in. That's going to be episode 2. Tons of good stuff coming up, like appraisal and kind of, we're going to walk the property and things like that. So there's going to be some good stuff. Drop me a comment down below if you've had experience with this or you've wanted to get into buying an investment property. Again, I work with so many people who do it, I figured I would just jump in myself. But hit that like button and again, subscribe if you want to join me along for this journey. Otherwise, I think I'm going to stop rambling on for this video and I'll see you in episode 2.